So we're going to get this thing going out here on Blab. I'm going to start my in-house recording. I'm pushing about 65% of my CPU's processing power right now, and I'm just running a small AMD 6-core processor with, like I said, an ATI R5 200 video card. I have two bid cams attached to this system, but in order to do the presentation I wanted to do today, I'm not running through. I have my Wirecast third-party software for broadcasting running in the background, but I am actually broadcasting my video through Blab. I'm not using an overlay feature for my lower thirds or anything like that. I'm not using what's called the virtual camera. The virtual camera that's running right now is just the Logitech driver through my browser window. So that makes it a little less of a burden on my machine. But all of this screen is being broadcast out to the masses. So you will be seen out live in other platforms today. So let me add a little logo on that, and you can always go out and check those out. But if you do open other windows for the broadcastings that are going on, like if you wanted to see yourself on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, please make sure you mute the tab in your browser by right-clicking on the tab at the top and clicking on mute tab so that if you do come into the room, we don't have the various sounds taking place all at the same time. So we are ready to go. I know I'm pushing my limits here with the recordings going on, so we're going to see what happens. But basically, the reason I wanted to do this show today, and I hope we get enough people in here to really make it worthwhile for everybody, is the fact that we're all aware of this new screen share feature that Blab has just released. It's a great idea. It's a wonderful concept. And, you know, just to give you a quick rundown, I can show you real quick on what's going on in the background over here on my other screen, and you will get a small fade effect. What's called the infinite zoom, you might say. This is my secondary monitor right now. And the reason I use, and the screen share feature, everybody's been waiting for this, Amel. Honestly, it's been something that has been in the works. I question whether they didn't release this a little sooner maybe than they should have, because we have seen a ton of bugs in it already moving forward. But that's not to say it's not going to work for us just well as we need it to. What you see here in the screen is my second monitor, and this is the Wirecast software that I use to broadcast over all of the different streaming features. So you see my streams lit up. I have not hit my record button just as of yet because I didn't want to overload the system. It is taxed out at about 76% right now. If I do attempt to record in-house, which I already have two recordings going, I have one on Blab and I have one on YouTube Live. I may not do that because I am going to be pretty intensive with the graphics and capabilities of the machine here today. So if I do, I might fire it up for a brief moment to see how it works and then turn that recording off if I run into a snag. So I just don't want to overload anything over here going forward. So this is actually a screen share of a secondary monitor. If I were to close down the Wirecast window, you'd be able to see everything that's going on. Let me save this also and get this out of the way for a moment. So what you see is my secondary screen. I'm broadcasting through my camera, and I'm looking at you guys through my first monitor. So I could share my other monitor with you, but what's going to happen is this. If I share my first screen, let's go ahead and stop this share out real quick. And I'll go in and I'm just simply doing a single click on the screen, which allows me to, whatever I choose in that window that pops up for Blab is going to be in the larger 16:9 view. So here's the infinite zoom that takes place. Now we see everything on monitor one, me included. So there's all this infinite video going on. That's because it's cycling through that infinite loop, the mirror loop. Just like if you put a mirror up to a mirror, that's what you get. So that's one way to enter the screen share. Now, I don't recommend using one monitor because this is what you're going to encounter on Blab every time you try to do this. Oh, you're on the iPad, Bob? All right, cool. Awesome to see you made it while you're out on the road. I know you're traveling, so kudos. There, I should say thank you very much. So that's one way to do it, but it does become a little bit difficult. Now, what we can do is, my recommendation is always to use the secondary screen. That way you can stay here on the mirror. You don't freak out the people who are on the show watching what you're doing, and you have that secondary screen going on. Now over here we could obviously pop up windows that we can get to. so that we can scroll down and show people what's going on our screen. It could be a website. It could be a Facebook page. It could be a photo page. This is one thing that I've got my granddaughter here in pictures, where we could literally pick on a picture and say, okay, here's my granddaughter. I could go back. I could even play a video from here if I wanted to, which is kind of cute, where you can pick on the video itself and the video will start to play. Now, this is right off of Google Drive's photo program. Now, you're going to hear the audio. At least you should be able to. I'm going to get to that in a minute, Mel. So this is my granddaughter. Now, the thing I have the ability to do here is, because I'm in control of this window and you're not, I can mute it and I can pause it and I can stop it. That's one thing you can't do with the drop-in feature with a YouTube video, because what you do with the drop-in is you end up giving everyone access through their own browser and their own feed to skip ahead, pause, mute, whatever they want to do. So it's very difficult to use for presentation mode. And speaking of which, presentation mode is another thing to consider when you come out here and you're sharing your screen in Chrome. If you hit the F11 key, you'll get what's called presentation mode. If you see that little thing that says press F11 to go back to full screen, this is to remove all of the tabs and the browser framework that's included with Chrome, to give you a more distinct, a better presentation look. It's something that takes you all the way to the limits of whatever it is you're showing. All you have to do is come back into that screen and either hit F11 again to drop the toolbar back into play and get the video to play again, et cetera, et cetera. So, I can stop this video at any time. Yes, it's called presentation mode. Thanks, Bob. So you guys don't have any control over this video, which allows me to present whatever it is I want to show in this video and stop it and pause it and talk about it or whichever. The other method does not allow that. So that's just one way. And what I'm going to cover today is something a little more elaborate. Now, people have discovered that the screen sharing thing is nice because you could have your slide share is one, but I don't see it necessarily being used as a slide share feature because that's something that you can share in a drop-in. So I'm not going to get into slide sharing today. What I want to show you guys today is a way to take the screen sharing utility to a newer level, which has some features available that would be nice if they were here on Blab, but they're not. So I'm going to dump the little photo representation I gave. I'm not going to share any more videos with you in that regard. I'm not going to share photographs. But one thing I will note while we're here is you do have the ability, if you hold this little screen share button that shows up, that's the little purple button when you're a host that shows up in the locked seat next to where the drop-in feature was. So if you, and I think in my text, I actually identified it as a green button because I knew that green arrow was there and I identified it wrong. So I will update that. But if you hold your left button down and pick on that, whatever you happen to share from that mode is going to put it, yes, I'll show you that in just a second. What can happen is it's just going to drop into a single seat. Now, I've been told, and I haven't confirmed this myself yet, I'm a little ahead of myself with this show, but that's all right, that when these recordings are made, even if it's in the large 16:9 full screen version, it only gets, yes, there we go, it only gets shown in the recording as a single seat. So even though it shows up to the audience as a full 16:9 full screen video, it doesn't get recorded that way. So that's one feature. That's where what I'm doing right now, by sharing my screen out to Facebook Live, et cetera, is I will have the full 16:9 view of what I'm presenting here to you in this Blab today. So let's drop that out of the way, and I'll show you real quick how I can get to that feature button for you. At least it should show up. Well, it might be difficult, honestly, to do anything like that, because if I share screen one, well, there it is. Now you can see it. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to hide this little thing here. This is the normal drop-in feature, as you can see in the window up above. You can't see it if you're not a host here in the Blab itself. If you were sitting with me, you'd be able to see it. But the normal drop-in feature is simply drop a link in the window, hit the go button, and I'm just showing you, somebody asked to see the actual button for the graphics so that it's there so people can see what's going on. The purple button is where we establish the screen share. So if I select this and I hold, if I pick on it, and you'll be able to see this on the screen. Well, I probably can't show you. Nope, because the window's open. And that's the difficulty of being able to explain the host side of this, to people. Yeah, the button's there. I mean, I'm not going to get into using snipping tools today, Bob, because I got a lot of other stuff going on, but I understand what you're saying. And I do have a fully written document on what I'm here to cover today. I'm not actually here to just cover the screen share feature. What I'm here to cover is something that not many people know about. And I'm going to get right into that because I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time. I know it's lunchtime usually. And that's one of the things that I don't want to sit here for a whole hour trying to explain what it is I came here to give you. If you do want to get the fully written disclosure of what's going on in today's show, Barb, if you could drop our Facebook feed. I know I've got a copy here somewhere. I might have it right here. Let's get people over to the original BTS Live group, which is now under a new name, but it's still under that particular drop. You want the full PDF of what we're going to cover here today with the pictures and all the other descriptions that come with it and how to use it properly. Go over there, become a member, and you'll get a members access only copy of that as soon as you get there. So I apologize for the auto zoom. I forgot to turn that off before I came in here today. But this is what we're here for today. Okay. Now, we have shown you that there are videos that you can display on the screen through the drop-in feature and not have the ability to control the volume, or you can use a tab and do a screen share. But I've got a little trick here that we're going to play with. And what it's called, basically, it's a tool that's been around for quite a while with Windows. Now, this is a Windows-only feature. I apologize to all those folks out there who are Apple users or iPhone users that come out here with their phones all the time, or all they use are their Macs or their MacBooks. This is not something that's going to work for you. You're going to have to find a workaround. And I hope somebody follows up on this Blab and gives a presentation on what they could possibly do on the Windows environment or the Apple environment to do what I'm going to show you how to do here today. So I'm going to share my other monitor. And this is a site I would like all of you to get an opportunity to check out. This is, if you were to Google the term Zoomit, Zoomit, just like you see. I'll do a link real quick and copy it into the chat so you guys can see this. This is an application that was built by the system operators over at Microsoft many, many years ago. Not many people knew about this application, but it's recent. The last update was back in 2013, but it is fully compatible so far as I've been able to witness with Windows 10. It is a portable software application. It is not something you have to install in Windows. All you have to do is download the zip file at the bottom of the screen. What you'll find is you can also run it from this actual site if you wanted to. It shows download Zoomit. It's a 296 kilobyte file. All right. That's all it is. It's just a little application. You could actually run it from this little icon right here through the window of the website on your machine without even having to download it. It's a safe utility. It's a zip file with an EULA license attachment to it. So it is licensed software. It's not just freeware. You can't just pass it off to, it gets passed around all the time, but you have a license to use it. You don't own it. You can't sell it. You can't just give it away to people. You recommend people to go to the site and download it themselves so they get a full copy of the EULA agreement that you'll get from Microsoft. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the use of Zoomit, and I'll show you exactly how that works. If I want, and I haven't loaded it yet, so I'm going to go over to my screen here, and you'll see when you open the zip file that comes from that particular location, which let me give you the link here. Here's where you can find it if you didn't get the first time, for everybody that might have missed it. You'll have two files, the Zoomit exe and the other file. Hello, Eileen, how are you? And the Zoomit exe file, when double-clicked, is going to start the application. Now, sometimes you will see, at least on the first run, this window is going to pop up. Now, the really cool thing about this is you might not be able to read that right now, but I'm going to show you how you can. There's 4 tabs, or actually 5 tabs in this particular platform that allow you to go and use at least 4 of the features. There's one feature that does not work in Blab Screen Share, and that's the live zoom feature. You can still use it on Windows, but it does not work or coordinate with the extension for Chrome that is used by Blab to present the screen sharing. So that's one feature that's out, and I'll show you in the zoom up here as to how this really works. So in the zoom, if I do a Control-1, And if you get over to the Facebook group real quick and sign up and Barb lets you in, you guys will be able to download the PDF I'm kind of working from here and see all this spelled out in fine detail with all the graphics for all the pages so that you can learn this outside of this Blab. And there will also be a link to this recording within that PDF file so that you can come back and watch the video if you need to, if you get lost in the text. So what I'm going to show you is the fact that I can do a Control-1. And now over on this screen, what I can start to do is literally, let's get this thing fired up. And I can't do it while this tab is open. I have the configuration options dialog for the software opened up. So I'm going to have to close that, but I am going to be able to show you on the screen the text file that I was talking about. This is the PDF file that you can go get in our Facebook group if you'd like. And when I'm in the zoom mode, now I can use the wheel on my mouse. And I can show you anything I want at any level I want. I can pan around with my mouse in hand, and I can start to show you all the nifty little things that you want to see. Now, Windows Magnify feature is not one I would ever even try to use out here, but I did, and it does not work. It just gives you small square blocks of black when you try to magnify on things. The other way people would normally magnify a screen is with a Control Plus or Control Minus, and the problem you have with that is you will build windows on the screen that will become responsive as you generate the different sizes, and then you can't really control the zoom factor. So in this case, you have a full control over what's being zoomed. You can zoom in as deep as you want, right up into the graphic of the text. And this feature is simply pick where you're at and it breaks free, and then you're into the next tab on the program. Now the Control 2 that I have set up, and let me be very clear. Let me work my way down here in this graphic real quick so I have a chance to explain this. I just zoomed my Blab window. And you have to be careful when you have two monitors because it depends on which monitor you click into. That's the monitor that's going to zoom when you get into the zoom mode. So if I zoom this in just a little bit so you guys can really see what's going on here. And then and then I click on this. I should be able to get from here. All right. Now, the only difficulty here is you cannot scroll the screen, which I really regret that you cannot do this. If I were inside this particular window, I would have to scroll down first and then come in and show you what it is I want to zoom in on by simply coming over here and moving my mouse around a little bit. And it does become somewhat of an inconvenience at times, but you have to understand this is a feature that's not available currently on Blab screenshare where you'd be able to zoom in and show this type of detail for anybody. So when you start up the program, it may go right to your taskbar, and you can find the little icon in the pop-up on the taskbar that you normally find all your startup applications in. When you right-click on that icon, which is a small window and a magnifying glass, you'll see the four options that are available there on the screen in front of you right now, which are the options dialog and 3 direct links to the applications that you would use out here on Blab screenshare, which is the break timer, the draw feature, and the zoom feature. And we'll explain all those as we go along. So in order to get you to where I need to get you, I have to simply escape, scroll down the screen a little bit, and get you to the first window that I want to cover, which is the zoom that I just started. So let me zoom in so you can actually see the dialog for this particular process. Now I have another little feature that's available right now. If I go to Control 2 that I have set up, it's not the default, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now I have this little green dot on the screen. And yes, it looks like a laser pointer, but it's a little more elaborate than a laser pointer. If I were to set it, say I don't like green and I want to use a different color, I can simply type one of 6 different letters. I can type R for red. I can type Y for yellow. I can type B for blue. I can type G for green, and I can do O for orange or P for pink if I want to get really goofy with it. So and obviously the ladies are going to love the pink. So that's just the way we work. Now, the large dot that you see is because I have factored up the level of the brush size. So if I hold down the left control key here, I can use my mouse wheel, or I believe my arrow keys. Yes, I can use my arrow keys also up and down, and I can change the size of my brush. Now, the default is about that big. So if it looks like a crosshair when you start. So if I want, I can start to draw lines. I can draw arrows. I can do circles. I can do boxes. Now, I wish I had like because my drawing with a mouse is terrible, so ignore me. I can do a Control Z, and back up one step at a time for each entity that I drew on the screen. So Control Z takes out one click at a time. If I wanted to draw some more after that, I can do all kinds of goofy things on the screen. And if I hit the letter E, I can erase everything on top. So now we have this whiteboard effect that we can use whenever we want it. I do recommend in the zoom mode, while I'm here on this dialog, when you're in the dialog for the program, that you go ahead and check these two boxes to show the tray in the icon, or show the tray icon, and to run Zoomit when Windows starts, so you don't forget to fire it up. That way it's always present unless you exit it. And if you do exit the software, you will have to start it back up with the exe file unless you reboot your machine. The feature setting for the zoom toggle, I say Control 1 because it's probably used the most. And then for specifying the initial level of magnification, if you go with 1.25, you're not going to get this zoom shock that people might get. And I'll give you a demonstration of how that would work. If I had my zoom display up much higher than that, let me pull this up so you can see it. If I set my zoom, hold on one second, I just have to get the dialog so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, go back to the options, and that's going to be over here. You're not maybe going to be able to see, well, you should. If I take the slider up past 1.25 to say 2, and then I go into a zoom factor, and I have to close this or the zoom will not work while the options window is open for Zoomit. But let's say I wanted to show you this window and zoom in on it. If I do the Control 1 now, it's going to instantly jump to twice the size of the screen that you see. So here's this, whoa, okay, that got big really quick. That's why I recommend, and you could go as high as 4 if you wanted to, but then you're kind of like bam in your face and things get a little crazy. So I do recommend that everyone take the zoom factor down to the very bottom, which would be 1.25, okay? That way, when you do the zoom from this position, it only jumps 1/4 of a magnification, and it's not such a shock to your audience. And then from there, you can zoom in with your mouse wheel or your arrow keys to whatever level you need to use. All right, now let's get back for a second to the draw feature. Now, again, I have mine set for Control 2, which when it first opens, it shows this little crosshair because the size of the screen or the size of the brush is down to its minimum. If I want to make it bigger, I can just hold the left control key down and zoom that brush up to create a much larger brush so that I can do bigger stuff. Okay. Now there's one other cool thing here. If I want to, I can escape out of that draw mode, or by simply typing the letter T, what I get is a vertical bar that I can position anywhere on the screen. And when I left click, I can start to annotate. All right. I can put notes on the screen. I can do anything I want with this. Now, there is an advanced button here that you can look for on the tab for the draw feature. So let me get out of here. Now, the only way to escape out of the drawing mode, all right, you're still in a drawing mode format. So you still have the option to Control Z out portions of it, including the text. And the only problem is you can't erase the whole screen when you're in the T mode like this. If you're still typing, obviously, if you type an E for erase, you're just going to get an E on the screen, right? So you're going to have to escape to get out of that into the draw mode with your paintbrush again. And then from there, you can go ahead and start moving on with, if you wanted to simply use the E to erase, then you can erase from there. Okay, so let me get back over to another feature that's pretty cool about this. Just so you get an idea of where I'm at with this feature, let me get back into my window, which is the thing that I put together. So we have the zoom feature. The live zoom is the one that I wanted to mention to you. It's all described here in the dialog, but the problem being is that this is an advanced zoom feature. So if you can read the screen, which you should be able to, it's supported in Windows Vista and higher. The problem here is it's a zoom draw feature that is not fully supported, and it can cause some serious screen flicker when you're in this type of presentation mode, and it will remain active for hours. If you notice here, it will remain active for 2 hours And if you enter presentation mode within that time, it'll work. If you exit presentation mode, then it'll stop. But I set it for Control 4. I would recommend, as you see on the screen, Control 8 or 9, so that that feature is set aside for now until I work through some of the aspects of it to see if there is a way to use it on Blab in the screen share. Currently, it does not work properly. So I just avoid it. I keep the live zoom completely out of the picture. And that's why I set it Control 4, because I won't really be over there. Although if I slipped on a Control 3 doing the next thing I'm going to show you, then I might accidentally fire it up. So you can see on the tabs, we've covered the zoom, we've covered the live zoom, which we're not using. We've covered the draw feature, which is obviously the third tab there. And then the type tab is just the settings tab. And I'm going to go down a little bit here so you can see this. The type tab covers the scope of the text font and such. So if you want to use a text font of your choice and your size and style, sorry for the zoom, I'm still getting used to the zoom on this, and I don't want to draw. So that's one thing. If you're in a zoom mode like this, where you zoom in on something and you click on the screen, you instantly go into draw mode. So if I were to stop here and left click on the mouse, I get my cursor. I can hold that down, wheel it down. I can start to mark up on this advanced, zoom that I have, the features that I want, or I could circle something that's most important to me, or I could go ahead and hit T and go into text mode, try this or whatever. I can really get into it from there. So with that advanced button on the text tab, you can get in, change the font, change the size of the font and the font style, whether you want it to be bold, oblique, italic, and play around with that so that you can get creative, get personal. Don't be the simple Arial or, Times Roman kind of person who's just putting stuff on the screen. Have some fun with it and enjoy yourself. So I hope that gives you a little bit of room to play. And then we have the last feature available in Zoomit. Yes, you can set all the font sizes, and then it's saved so that you never have to change that again. All you have, like for me, I'm using a Dungeon font, which is my branded font that I use on all of my stuff that I put out on brochures and graphics and things like that. So, and I believe it works with any font you have installed on your system. Now, I don't know how well that will work. I don't think it won't attach to anything online in order to use Google Fonts, but if you do save some Google Fonts to your machine, you can obviously access those at any time. So as far as the break time goes, now this is a cool little thing. And I'm hoping people really find some neat ways to use this. That's my desire anyway. The break feature is just that. It's kind of an intermission screen that will pop up on the display to give you a chance to take a break. You can set the timer from anywhere to from 0 to 99 minutes. And the advanced settings I'll go over with you in just a second. So if I hit Control 4 from my window, I have to get out of my zoom mode here first. So a lot of times you'll be escaping to get out of one mode and into another. So if I hit Control 4, what you see right now is the display has faded out into about a 50% opacity, as is the timer screen currently. Now, if I wanted to, I could stop this with simply escaping. And let's say I wanted you to be able to actually see that a little better. Let's go into the options and head over to the break tab. If I go to the advanced tab, now I can't zoom in on this, but I do have a zoomed view of this in the document below it. So if we get down here on the screen, let me pull up my little fly here, on the fly here, because once you close that, it disappears every time. And again, this is because it's a portable software like this, you tend to run into that. So in the options, once again, I have the timer opacity set for 50%. So if I go to 100%, then you're going to actually, when you see the timer, it's going to be a full colored timer. So if I go to Control 4 again, now you can see how much darker the timer is. I had the opacity set for 50%, so you could see through the timer to the screen, but the screen was actually faded out also. Now you can replace this faded background, which is simply the backdrop or desktop background that I have on my system, with an image of your choice. So you can see here in the feature that's available in the advanced tab, this is the menu that pops up. You can set the timer opacity. You can play a sound when the timer runs out. So maybe you're going to say, you know what, I need 5 minutes. I got to run over here. Stick around with me. I'll be right back. You could fire up that timer for 5 minutes, run into the other room, and then maybe you got lost in, the action that you were involved in, and you forgot you were having a show. Well, you could set a sound that would play like a buzzer or something like that, a repeated wave file. I believe it'll use the Windows sound files, but that way at least you're reminded that you have a show going, maybe if that's the case, or maybe you're hosting a small webinar and you take intermissions and you want to have a break for everybody to get a chance to get a glass of water or a bio break or something. You can position that timer. Oops, sorry, I moved my mouse. Anywhere in the 9 positions on the screen, you know, upper left, top center, upper right, centered, anywhere across the screen or down on the lower end. And then the background image can be changed to the background of your choice using any image file you want. And that image can be either the size that's given, like an 800 by 600, which wouldn't fill the screen completely, or you could make it scale to the screen to fit the whole screen. So that's pretty much the gist of it. But what I've discovered is it's very stable. Obviously, maybe a little more so than the screen sharing feature itself, because there still are a lot of bugs with it as far as bouncing around, jumping screens, and having features show up at the bottom, like where I'm at right now, to you, and covering people who are in the Blab. There's been a couple of things like that we've run into. So I hope this at least gives you guys some idea of how you can make this screen share process a little better for all of us and have some fun with it, find some unique ways to play with it, and be personal with it, and have some fun at the same time. So if you want a copy of this file that you just saw, the PDF I created last night, it's a 5-page PDF that explains the software in its entirety. I appreciate if you guys don't share this out or give it away to your constituents, because it is part of a bigger package that I'm working on. I'm developing a course on Yes Course, which is going to be called Live Streaming on a Limited Budget. So if you want to get in touch with me in the nearest future, or get on the list, because it's not going to be available probably until the first week in May, is what I'm shooting for right now. So if you guys want to get with me and find out how that course is going to go, it's going to be a long 5-course series. It's not going to be anything short, and it's certainly going to be very succinct in how I develop it. I have the outline established and some of the courses already pre-generated, but I have a lot of videos to cut yet. I'm expecting it to probably be close to a 10-hour course. So I haven't locked it in just yet, but if you want to get with me and put your name on my list so that you can find out what's going on and be notified when that course becomes available, it'll have this as part of that, because I do want to present Blab as one of the featured live streaming courses or platforms in that course. But I do anticipate covering Facebook Live, probably a little bit of Snapchat. I'm not a big fan. I don't use it a lot, but it will also cover ways to use other third-party software so that you can get out here and broadcast on several different platforms like I'm doing right now. We are not only live on Blab, but we are live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Ustream, Dailymotion, StreamUp, and StreamMe. So you guys are out there on the world today being seen by lots of folks right now. So that's all I got for you. And if anybody would like to come in and ask some questions, I'd be happy to answer those while we're there. So I'm just going to cut off the recording that's going out of town. Let me get into my screencast software. I'm going to stop the stream, and we can move on with things like that. So thanks everybody for coming out today for the show. I hope in this little bit of half-hour time that we were spending together that you got a good gist of what's going on. So pausing the recording.